In regards to that question, why does it feel like everything is falling apart and crumbling at the moment? We are witnessing massive amounts of change. What we don't often realize is that our mental paradigms desire consistency, even though that consistency is often built on faulty ground. We still desire consistency. And so we call in massive amounts of change and often very startling change. And we call it in from a higher level, from our soul perspective. We call it in to our physical awareness because we desire the end result of that change. And there isn't really an end result, but we desire the culmination of the breakdown occurring because there's so much built on top of who we truly are. Who we truly are is underneath all of these paradigms. Here's the story. Here's what happens. We are born into this experience, and immediately we start getting these filters. The filters come in, they come in. We start being taught paradigms that are contrary to the truth of who we are. Now, again, that word contrary, there's nothing that's actually opposed to who we are, but they are layers, these layers that are built on top of our light, our pure essence. And we're taught these things. They come in and they layer on top of us. And they're actually very different to the way that we inherently are. If we came in and we weren't taught these things, we would actually, well, it's part of the process of coming into the physical to have the density be honest. So there's not really a way, even if we aren't implicitly taught, even if we aren't directly taught these things, such as going to school and being taught to be quiet and, don't speak unless spoken to, things like that. The things that we are taught through a misunderstanding. Even if we weren't directly taught those things, the very act of being born and coming into the density that is required within the physical realms, it causes us to, we need that because part of the game that we're playing is an individual game. And so we become more and more and more dense in order to feel the separation. We feel the separation. And so there's many trainings that exist. The first one is just the act of coming into a physical body. There's so much illusion of separation in that. It's inevitable and it's part of the game and it's okay. So, what happens is we get all these layers on top, and these are paradigms, these are constructs, these are belief systems. They're all built on separation because that's the game. There's no way to comprehend being an individual unless we also believe in being separate from God, from our God nature, from our God selves. This realm is only possible based on the energetic illusion of separation. So it's part and parcel. It's what happens when we come into our sense of humanness. It's what happens when we embody or uh, dive into this bodily experience. And so, as we start to awaken, and this happens in increments, and it also happens in large blasts, all of those paradigms, they start to crumble. And they're unexpected. We don't think, oh, I'm calling out for divine healing of my body. And then this over here happens, right? This catches on fire or this breaks down. It's non-linear because our version of linear isn't true either. There isn't really the way that we see things as logical or linear, even that construct starts to break down. It's not true. It's part of the illusion. We create these lines that say A equals B and B equals C, and we do that ourselves to make this make sense. It has to be built on false teachings because it is false that we are separate. It is false that we are not God. So everything that's built on that, which is really the landscape of our entire lives, crumbles as we awaken. And it is not linear. We don't expect that when we call in this over here needs to break down. We don't see the connection because we haven't set in our human paradigms, and I say plural paradigms because it's just this series of a house of cards that just we start blowing them down, right? They crumble when we call in our higher consciousness. And it can't be linear because we have built this over here. It's as if when we call in perfect health, we think that body changes are going to happen. When we call in a perfect, like our divine relationship, we think that we're going to date people and meet a series of people that are going to lead us to our divine counterpart. But that's not what happens. What happens is we call in our divine partner and our health all of the sudden goes into a spiral, or we call in perfect health and all of our relationships crumble because what causes a misalignment in this area is over here, and it's all interconnected. So that's why it doesn't make sense. Why did I call in this and this started to break down? That's why it doesn't make sense, because we can't see it, but it is interconnected. It's inherently interwoven. This is us stepping into the realms of oneness consciousness. Oneness consciousness is not that we recognize that we're not separate from each other. It's that we recognize that we're not separate from anything, that we're part of it all, and that we're God. And as God, it's everything. And we're learning. We're not going all the way to source consciousness. We would cease to exist. But we are learning to be physical and in this layer of density. And we're also learning to hold the consciousness that is much closer to knowing that we're God. And yes, some people are going to rocket to really intense levels of consciousness. And there's no hierarchy because what we're learning is how to be multidimensional. How can I operate in the physical realm and know that I'm God? And not everybody's meant to hold that breadth of consciousness in this human experience. Some are meant to only know beyond the layer of linear time. Some are meant to know the interconnectedness with all of our intergalactic star family and be a human. We still filter things through our human consciousness. And so it's going to be each of us are going to come into the wisdom and understanding of our multidimensional landscape that is perfect for this human embodiment at this time and what you're here to do and how you're here to serve. So here's how we know what we're going to open to. What do we call out for? What desire do you have that you're calling out for? And again, it's going to be nonlinear. For some of you, you're calling out for perfect health. Again, everything's going to break down that's blocking that pure presence of divine health from shining through you. And some of you are going to call out to know who you are as a star frequency, as a multidimensional frequency in the cosmos. Where did you come from? Some of you, that's the deepest desire of your heart. And if that's what you're calling out for, then watch what starts to break down and witness it, knowing that what you called in is causing that breakdown because it's a false paradigm that cannot coexist with the knowledge of your light in this ascended version of you. Let me put that another way. When you call out for something, it is a desire that's built within you that is perfectly aligned with how you are meant to unfold as a human. Your desires are your template. Your desires are your template. It is your template awakening and unfolding in this frequency realm. So when you call out, when you have a desire, it is divine design showing up in your existence. And you call out for that desire, and instantly, we don't even have a word for how instant it is. It happens before the desire is called out. It's just instantly things start to break down. And the things that are breaking down are the very things that, one, cannot exist with this new level of light that's coming in. And two, the things that are breaking down, it creates the soil that grows this new version of you. Think about this. The things that are breaking down in your world are the very things that are the soil. It creates the soil for the new growth. It is the fertilizer. It is such a perfect design. It is such a perfect design. The things that break down cause the chain reaction within your template that birth this new level of light. It is divine design. There is no accident. It's when we expand our consciousness, it is unfathomable at how perfect all of this is. It is so divinely designed. But again, it's beyond the linear constructs that our mind has created to help us believe in separation. It's so far beyond that. And so our mind is going to grapple with what's breaking down, and it's going to say, this doesn't make any sense. And why is so much breaking down? Because you called in the fullness of who you are. And that's a big calling in. And that means a lot of paradigms that we might be very attached to are going to be breaking down. And it's perfect, it's divine. Witness, not necessarily the breaking down, but witness the transformation that is occurring within you, the grief that arises, the frustration that arises at things. Watch and witness the inner transformation that is occurring through these attachments dissolving. Witness those things, and you will find the medicine. You will find the exact formula for what is being created because it literally creates the soil for the new plant that is being birthed through you. The light that is being birthed through you is created and is fed through the breakdown. It's just like the earth. It's just like the earth. And oftentimes on the planet, fire comes through and it fertilizes the soil. It creates new life. If we looked at fire as bad, if we tried to control, which many people do, try and control all sorts of elements of this planet. And if we try and control the fire, imagine what we would miss out on.